Most people would say that they believe in Jesus at some level, right? Getting married at 18, 19, we know so many friends that have gotten divorced in that time, and it breaks our heart. Man, I tell you what, I was not ready to be a dad. I was still in bed. She was pregnant. I was feeling depressed and sorry for myself. Then you show up in this house where the foundation's falling in, the roof's falling in. Hey, my phone's about to die. I'm buying a duplex. I'll call you back when I get back to my phone. I get my phone charged. Hang up. You can't learn how to invest $5. You're never going to be able to invest $5 million. And I know it goes totally against what you just said. I think that I'll be a billionaire.
Do you guys remember the time when you were in high school and you had somebody in your class who always got straight A's? And it seemed like they knew everything. And you're thinking, how did they get so smart? And then when they played sports, they got the first pick. And you think, how's this happening? Why not me? And probably the reason is because that person learned what they know from somebody else. And so I want you guys to meet somebody today who's a friend of mine, Kendell Liden, who's one of those guys who was like, I'm glad I'm not his age, because I'd feel like I'd have to compare myself to him, because everything seems to go well for him. But that didn't just happen because he was given all that stuff. He's worked really hard and he's been humble through the whole thing. And as he's learned and served, he's not been too proud of himself to be able to ask questions. In fact, he's asked me lots of questions over the years. And so I want you to meet him today and let him share a little bit of the story of his life with you. I don't know the whole story, but it's a fascinating story of how God has blessed him and has used him to be blessing other people, including blessing other people in other countries. And you won't believe it, but he's like, how old are you?
27.
Man, you got old. Because I was watching you when you were 18 years old thinking,
Yeah.
How did this guy get so anointed at such a young age? So maybe let's start by can you just tell, how did you turn out so good?
Well, first thing I'll say is all glory to God. It's funny because I laughed whenever you said about the straight A's and the good at sports thing, because back when I was going through junior high and high school, like getting B's was good for me. There was a lot of times where I was like struggling with the C, which is funny because both of my parents have their PhD. Well, my dad's got his PhD. Mom's got her master's. Super smart people. But that wasn't like really my grain. And then when it comes to sports, I was actually always like the overweight, chubby kid. Like I struggled to fit in. I was not good at sports teams. Like that was not at all, like my upbringing. So yeah, but when you talk about like how that transition changed over time. A lot of it was, I think, just like deeply getting in with the Lord. And over time, like more and more, just how do I do that every day, multiple times a day? How do I connect with the Lord so he can guide my path and lead me where I'm going? I mean, I'm sure you have like a similar experience as far as like being led and good.
So now I don't know your early history. Your parents, of course, I've talked to your parents, and they're all about Jesus now. But was that the case when you were growing up? Were they raising you to love Jesus with everything you have?
So that's an interesting question. We're here in Texas, so we live in the Bible Belt. So I think most people would say that they believe in Jesus at some level, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether they go to church or not, whether they like read their Bible or not, that's a whole different question. So for me growing up, we went to church off and on. I felt this pull to want to be potentially like a pastor or something like that at a young age. Then that kind of faded away.
How young?
Well, so the way my parents and grandparents tell the story is I was maybe like 4 or 5 when I first started talking about like wanting to be a preacher. So like while most kids wanted to be like a police officer or a firefighter, like I was talking about being a preacher. Later on, it became more of like a focus on, the military. But Joey Geisel. So Libby and I, we actually went to Taffa back when it was in Fort Worth. That's where we met. And I was on the worship team at Taffa. That's where I met Joey Geisel. And, I remember when Libby and I first got together, we realized in order to walk out in purity, because we were 16 at the time, we had lots of years before we could even get married, to walk that road in purity, we were going to need some counsel, some advice, some wisdom. Joey Geisel, like that dude's got a heart on fire for the Lord.
Yeah. So this is 11 years ago, right?
Gosh, you're going to put me on the spot when you ask me a question like that. But yes, something like that. Yeah. So about 11 years ago, we started meeting up with Joey Geisel, and, he was like, hey, you guys, if y'all don't have a church, you should come to my church. That was Grace Community Church. And so then we met Caleb Beecham, and so the story kind of went from there. And I really like fell back in love with, ministry, the church, chasing after Jesus and all that kind of good stuff.
So had you been going to church all that time since you were a little kid?
Off and on. Like my family would go every once in a while, but it just wasn't really a priority in my home. Yeah.
Well, it is now because your dad actually is he still on staff?
He's not on staff anymore, but no. So he was at Rush Creek on staff, and then whenever he left there being on staff, he was a chaplain for a while, and now he comes in as a chaplain every once in a while for some of the hospital systems, where he really just goes in with people who are kind of at the end, and has a great opportunity to have some really cool conversations with them. But it was cool. I was actually, was really privileged to have the opportunity to baptize my dad.
That's right. That's what I was thinking that there was some,
and I can't remember when it was. If you ask me the date, I'm not going to be able to tell you when it was. I would have probably been like young college age. But I baptized my dad, and then my mom was right there in the pool with us. And then at first she wanted me to baptize her as well, and ended up I baptized my dad, and I told my dad, you should baptize mom.
Right.
And so they were both baptized right there.
I remember that day.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten to mention it, but I remember that day. And that's why in the back of my mind, I was thinking it was you that kind of brought your parents to kneel before the cross of Jesus.
It was a really cool opportunity.
And that was because of Joey Geisel.
It was because of Joey Geisel. It's crazy the ripple effects that can happen in life. Like one person's impact, how that can go out in just some like amazing ways.
Well, Joey Geisel was a leader here at the Cornerstone back, how many years ago?
Yeah.
And then through that, he, came on staff at the church. Yeah. And now leads our prayer ministry.
Well, and it's funny because I got to know him before he actually started dating Emma. So like we started counseling with Joey just several months before he started dating Emma. And then obviously now they're married, they got their kiddo, and it's been fun just to kind of all grow up together in some ways. So, yeah.
So you met Libby when you were 16 years old. Mm-hmm. And you were still in high school, of course. And then I think you guys got married when you were like 17 or something. I mean, I know I'm exaggerating. Yeah. It was about.
I was 19, she was 18, and then Libby turned 19 like 2 weeks after we got married. But yeah, we were pretty young. I mean, Libby's parents, rightfully so, looking back, it was crazy. They were a little bit nervous when we got married. But yeah, no, that was just a really interesting time, going through it. But we've had family, both on her side and my side, support us as we just went through all those learning curves. Getting married young is no small feat. There's lots of struggles that we've, faced over time. We've done some things right. We've done some things really wrong. By the grace of the Lord, like we're still on a decent path in life. And Libby and I were just talking the other day, we're close to 8 years of marriage. Getting married at 18, 19, we know so many friends that have gotten divorced in that time, and it breaks our heart. And it's totally by the grace of God that we're even, married, let alone like we've got 3 kids, we've got
and another one
on the way. Yeah. I'm praying for twins. So we'll see. Maybe after this podcast airs, I tell you guys if I was right or not, but Liliana's praying for twins with me.
Yeah. Liliana's your oldest, right?
Liliana's the oldest. And then we got Liberty and KB. So our kiddos are 2, 4, and 6. We dated for so long before we first got together. We knew we wanted to have a family. So we dated for 3.5 years before we got married. And then it was about 6 months later, we got pregnant with Liliana. And then obviously she was born 9 months after that. So we were married for 1.25 years before we had our first kiddo, like with us out of the womb. We jumped into parenting, and man, I tell you what, I was not ready to be a dad at all. I thought I was.
Well, who is?
Yeah. I didn't realize how immature I was. It's funny because I was just having a conversation with the guy the other day, and he was like, dude, I don't know how you do it. Every day, like you've got your kids, but you go to the gym, you work out, you run the business, you're at the office, you work late sometimes, but you pour into your wife, you pour into your kids. Like, how do you do it? And I was like, dude, if you were to rewind the clock back to where I was when we first had Liliana, you would find a guy who was struggling to get through his first flip. I was depressed. There was a lot of mornings where Libby would leave to go like work at this daycare. She'd leave at, I think it was 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning. I was still in bed. She was pregnant. I was feeling depressed and sorry for myself. Like I couldn't even figure out how to get through.
You're only 20 years old at the time.
Dude, it was so much. I took so much pressure onto myself so young. It's refined me, and I'm really grateful for it, but I wouldn't want to do it twice. You know what I
mean? Right. Don't have to do that again.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So you guys got married when you were 19. Had your first baby when you're 20. Now 3, 1 or 2 more coming.
Yeah.
And yet, as people on the outside look at you guys, I mean, even me. I mean, I'm more than twice your age. And I'm thinking, this is an incredible family. I mean, anybody that's been in your home or been with you guys senses the Holy Spirit in your lives that work in your family. I mean, really, I mean, you're the testimony of families that do it right is great. It has a great impact on people because there's so many families that aren't doing it right.
Sure.
And obviously,
yeah,
nobody does it perfectly. And I think you'd probably be the first to admit that. But for someone who got married young and struggled, I mean, who's got money to get married when you're 19?
yeah, let alone wisdom.
That's right. But like I said in the beginning, what has impressed me about your life is the wisest person is the person who admits that they don't have all the wisdom they need.
Sure.
It's the fool who acts like they've got it all together and thinks that they don't need to ask.
Yeah.
So you've asked him. I mean, you asked Joey Geisel for advice before you guys were even married.
Yep.
And you've asked me for advice, and I know you've asked lots of other people for advice. And there have been times where we haven't talked for months, and I'll get a text from you saying, "Hey, I need advice or I need prayer about this." And as I've given you advice in different areas, including your business, which now you've way surpassed me, and I think in experience, you were humble enough to learn.
Yeah.
From the challenges rather than just getting frustrated.
Yeah.
And so, what did you tell me? I mean, I know your business is real estate stuff still.
Yeah, it is.
And that's where you started. I mean, I remember back when you were, I don't know if you were married yet.
We were. When we first talked, we were married, but very young married.
You came here to the Cornerstone and you had a presentation for me.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I do, yeah.
And I think it wasn't just me. I think what you wanted to give me a presentation of what your business plan was because you're asking for investment.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
And I think I invited other people to come along. I said, "Why don't you guys?" So we had several people in that room.
I think we might have. Yeah.
You presented your plan, and I didn't laugh at you at all.
No.
Because I thought this is incredible. We got a 19-year-old kid who's got this plan for investing in real estate, and you were asking me because I'd done it.
Yeah, you had.
I'd done it, and of course I'd done it in a different market because we bought 53 houses back in.
But markets change, but principles don't, and that's why I came to you. Was because like I knew that you had some guiding principles that could help me in my journey. Whereas even if the market shifted, principles don't.
Did I give you any principles?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I think one of the biggest things that, even the first flip that I ever did with Bright, how many times did I reach out to you? Yeah, Bright Street over in Fort Worth in Stop 6.
Okay. Now remind me of the sequence because you came and met with me, presented this plan, and said, I think, what you told me is, I'll pay you 15%.
Yeah.
You get money from me, I'll pay 15%.
I've never paid anybody else 15. I've never even offered that. Like after those experiences, I realized how painful 15% can be.
I said, bro, you know what you're asking.
No, I did not.
I can get you money, and I can get you money for 12. What was it? 12 or 10%?
12. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think you mentioned like 6 to 12, just depending on the type of deal.
Yeah.
Which I've learned so much about it since then. Back then I took one course in wholesaling. Be like watching a couple YouTube videos. Took one little thing, and I thought I knew so much, and really, like I have barely scratched this. Even now, I've barely scratched the surface. It blows my mind how far real estate can go. Like every day that I'm in it, I learn something new. But back then I knew nothing.
So this is probably 2018, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. I think it was because
well, we graduated in 2017, and then we got married in 2018, and Liliana was born in 2019, so it had been 2018.
Anyway, I just remember I was in Japan on the phone with you talking about trying to.
How many times have I talked to you about deals while you're like on the other side of the globe? And I'm just like, hey, Steve, I'm sorry to bother you. I know you're doing more important stuff, but I could really use.
That's why when I was sick, when I went through that period of time where I wasn't able to talk, my wife became.
Yeah. We talked quite a bit getting stuff.
You and her were doing deals, and I was like, "What's that deal?" And she's like, "Don't worry about it. I've got it going with Kendell." And that was, so how many deals did we?
We've probably done somewhere in the ballpark of like 20 deals together, give or take over time. Yeah. Most of those, So most of those were through that time period where you were sick, and it was like one day turnarounds on stuff. Oh, so that was when we were doing all the equity.
That was like, get me some money.
Yeah.
Give me what were those one-day deals?
So it's a double close.
Right.
And so it was essentially a deal where I was selling equitable interest in real estate. And in that, you have like an A, B, and a B, C side of the transaction. But certain title companies, they will allow you to use the BC funds to fund A, B. So to give you an example, if I contracted it for, let's use round numbers for easy math, $100,000, and then I found somebody who's going to buy it for $150,000. Some title companies will allow you to use the person who pays 150 to pay for the one that you close at 100. Most won't, because if there's like a hang up on funds,
Then you're
they don't.
stuck.
Yeah, then like both deals, there's like a monkey wrench into the whole thing, and it's very complicated. So we were funding AB basically at 100,000, buying it for less than 24 hours, turning around and selling it on that back end contract, and we'd end up with the whatever profit margin was left after the whole thing was said and done.
And you made money.
Pretty good money, yeah.
Well, that first one. So let's talk about that house on Bright. I think you'd been married a year or so.
No, I was testing my marriage. You got to think, because we had Liliana after Bright was all said and done. We probably sold Bright in the fall. We were married in June. So I probably picked that one up after we had only been married for like 6 months, maybe 9, barely been married at all. And here's the other thing. So when I was looking for houses, you were used to buying. Well, I think it was probably twofold. A, looking at your perspective now, knowing what I know, you don't want to put a ton of money into a deal when you're not really sure where somebody's at. So you wanted to do lower price deals. But at least at the time, you were saying how the deals that you had done back when were like a lot cheaper.
Oh, we bought those back in the 90s.
Don't even tell me. It hurts to hear. But for real.
We bought our first house for 20, second house for 15,
Gosh.
third house for 16, the next one for 25. And it just went on like that.
Yeah.
And we bought, the most.
But it wasn't like they were worth $200,000 and you were getting for 20.
We'd buy those houses and we'd put $5,000 into them. Jeez. And we'd make $15,000.
Yeah.
Me and a business partner.
Yeah.
And we were working 60 hours a week.
Yeah.
But the funny thing was back then is we'd find a house. Of course, back then, you'd drive down the street, every other house was for sale.
Sure.
I mean, it was a buyer's market. Just
yeah.
I can't,
so this would have probably been like 2000.
We moved here from Japan.
More like 2008 or
no. I'm talking before you. I don't know.
Well, so this is like late 90s, early 2000s.
We moved here from Japan in '95.
Okay.
And the story of how I got involved in real estate is. It's just the hand of God.
Yeah.
But really, I didn't know what a mortgage was growing up.
Yeah.
I mean, you've seen the house that I grew up in.
Yeah. They didn't mortgage out TPs.
My parents bought their first house for $13.50.
Yeah.
And if anybody who's watching this doesn't know how, well, we need to put a picture of that house.
There you go.
But it was a grass house in the Ogden Villages. And so I had no idea what a mortgage was.
Right.
I'd never heard of a mortgage except that I played Monopoly.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then somehow I stumbled into a job at a bank in California when I was 21 years old.
Okay. Was this before or after being a rock star?
This was during the time.
During the time. Okay, so you're a rock star and a banker.
I had to feed myself a little bit. And then I wanted to get married, so I had to feed my wife too. So I learned how to do money at this bank.
Okay.
And then one day the manager at the bank down the street comes and she's in the line, and she hands me a note and says, "Call me. I want you to work for me." And so I call her, and I go down there for the interview, and it's a mortgage bank.
Okay.
Again, remember, I don't know what a mortgage is.
Yeah.
Because of how I grew up.
Why did she want you to work for her though?
Because she'd been watching me.
What was it about you that was different? Like, why didn't she give a note to everybody? Because I think this is important.
Well, I think it is important partly because the hand of God was on my life, and He had a plan. I mean, think about what we're doing. I just got back from South Asia.
Yeah.
Think about what we're doing in the Philippines. Think about what we're doing in Japan. So obviously, the church gives me money to live.
Yeah.
But it's not enough to
keep
hundreds of other people fed and in school.
So he wanted to teach you something through it. But I also would imagine it's a way that you showed up, and I think that that's probably very important.
The Lord was preparing me. Yeah. I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I didn't know anything when I came here. And so He's preparing me, and it's just like He was giving me tools in my tool belt.
Yeah.
So I go down to this interview, and I sit down with her, and she explains to me. She says, "In this office, we do 1 to 4 units." Well, I don't know what a unit is. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I didn't know what a mortgage was, but I pretended I know.
Yeah. That's the little green ones in Monopoly, right? Am I
Well, so
right?
when you
Or is
flip your
it?
card
Yeah.
over, you flip your card over and you get the money.
Yeah.
I knew what that was because I played Monopoly. So I pretended I knew what she was talking about. I'm like, okay, what do you do if you get more than 4 units here? I'm just bluffing. I don't know what a unit is. Well, I learned mortgage. I learned what mortgages were. And then anyway, this is your story today, but just the way the Lord prepared me. So then I moved here from Japan in '95, and we buy our first little house for $20,000 and move in it. It didn't have central air. I'm thinking,
wow, here in Texas, brutal summer.
Well, I found
you probably had a window unit, but geez,
I got a window unit at another house. We got another house for $14,000.
Okay.
And it had a window unit that I took and put in our bedroom, so that we had some relief.
The things that we entrepreneurs do to our young wives, and how we're still married, is.
I was thinking, how could I afford to put central air in this? I don't got any money.
Yeah,
but the way it was.
But you know what? Saunas are all the rage. They're a health thing, so there's always that going for you.
Not in the middle of summer in Texas. The funny thing is that as we're doing this, I'm learning stuff, and I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. But a guy named Steve Enru introduced me to a guy who grew up in the Brazil rainforest, and he said, "You got to meet this guy." And we met each other, and he kind of took us around and showed us a little bit of the ropes. And we looked at each other and said, "We could do this together." Yeah. And we ended up buying those 53 houses. So I didn't know that much, but the Lord was guiding our lives. Yeah. So. In your situation, you're of course we all start somewhere. Sure, we know what we're doing. Yeah, but sometimes it's better to move forward and try to do what you don't know what to do than to sit in class.
100%, 100%.
So you came to me and said, "Hey, I want to do this." You found that house on Bright Street.
Well, I was looking at other houses at first, and you said bring the price down. So we ended up in the hood at stop 6. It was. I didn't want to work there late at night. After working there a couple late nights, started realizing this is not a place that I should probably work late at night. It, had some sketchier moments, but it was a really great learning opportunity. The problem with that house was I bit off way more than I could chew.
Man, you bit off a bunch.
Well, see, because I grew up in flips. So like my grandfather's a cabinet builder. We did live in flips all growing up. So I thought, I've seen this all my life. I participated in a lot of these different projects. I'll know what to do. Then you show up in this house where the foundation's falling in, the roof's falling in. There's like a halfway done, addition on the back that was not done to code by any sort of means by the imagination. And I don't know if you remember this. Then we finally get 95% of the way through that job, almost completely done. And then all of a sudden, guess who shows up? The inspector. What does that mean? We got to tear everything back apart, start back from ground zero, get our permits, build everything back in. So I thought I had gotten through the nightmare getting it done the first time. Then we had to live it all over again. It was terrible. And the only way I made money on that deal was that addition.
So let me ask you, how much did you buy that house for?
Gosh, I can't. You're asking me questions.
I think it was like 80,000 or something.
It was low. I mean, yeah, it was. Because I think whenever we sold it, we might have sold it for like 160. So. Oh, really? Yeah.
And so where's that house now? You sold it to somebody. Are they still living there? Do you know what?
No, that house has been sold again. And I don't even know what, it's worth these days. I mean, ever since the COVID market hit, like it's probably worth way more. Should have held on to it looking back.
Yeah. Well, I wish we would have held on to those houses we had. Yeah. That was incredible. So we helped you buy that one. And then I think you bought a duplex just right over here to use for.
So you want to hear the story on that one though?
Yeah.
So I would think we were getting nearer to the end of Bright. Why you wanted to work with me again after Bright still kind of baffles me sometimes.
Because you asked me.
Well, but I don't know if I would have said yes if I had been in your shoes, but you're a super gracious guy. But you had sent me, you're like, hey, check out this deal. And you sent me this duplex. I wanted to create kind of like you had done with the Cornerstone housing. I'm not sure if y'all still do that or not for the college students. I want to do something like post-college. So anyways, the story goes, look at this house, walk it with this guy. I like it. Mind you, barely made it through Bright. If it hadn't been for the addition, we'd have lost money. Worked on that thing for like 9 months. I think we ended up making like $6,000 on that one.
You learned a ton.
But here I am, like my wife's barely making minimum wage at like a daycare, working part-time, huge and pregnant. We're living in a 1-bedroom apartment, hoping to move out of it. And I spend these grueling like 6-9 months working on this house, and luckily I made money. I mean, I know lots of people lose money on their first flip, right? We very easily could have lost 20 grand, 20 grand that I didn't have. We were super leveraged up on that.
And I was starting to feel it. I'm like,
I remember I'd hit you up and you'd be like, dude, there's no more to give. And I'd be like, I remember I felt so stuck between a rock and a hard place, because I was like, we got to finish it, but we were out of money. I don't know what to do. Man, I felt very lost in that one. But so the duplex. So we just gotten at it. We hadn't even sold Bright yet, but the project was done. It was on the market. So I was feeling good again after going through this like huge, I don't know what I'm even doing. Like I had some really dark season through there where I even thought about like taking my life. Like I was really struggling, just trying to find my way. Come to this duplex, and all of a sudden I'm like hyped up on the energy again. I'm excited. I see this huge opportunity right out in front of me. This is it. This is how we become millionaires. And so Libby gets out of the daycare job. I've got probably 2% left on my phone. I had just wired the money through or whatever, however we got, the wire done. And Libby calls me. She says, hey, where are you at? You're not at home. I said, hey, my phone's about to die. I'm buying a duplex. I'll call you back when I get back to my phone. I get my phone charged. Hang up. Libby, like when she recounts the emotions that she went through from that phone call.
She freaked out.
Dude, big time. Like she had one of those moments where she was like, I've been with him for a long time and I know I love him, but I'm not sure if this is going to work long term. So that's how I set my marriage up for success. So for more marriage tips.
There you go. Yeah. So, but she bought it anyway because you'd already sent the money.
I mean, it was like done. We had to. So we bought the house.
Did you make any money on that place?
We made like 11 grand was all said and done. But I'll be honest with you, Steve, this is one of my big mistakes that I made. I can't remember. You remember the story of the guy in the Bible? You probably would be able to tell me exactly where it's at. Where he's going to war. He was one of the major, not prophets, but the warriors, the judges. He's one of the major judges. Mm-hmm. He was going to go out to war, and he told the Lord, like, whatever comes through my gate first, I'll give over to you. And he made a covenant to the Lord. Well, when I was going through Bright, I had one of those moments. We've all done it where you're like, God, if you get me through this, like I'll never do this again. I'll do this, that, and the other. I told the Lord when I was going through Bright, Lord, if you get me through Bright, I'll give you everything that we make on it. I'll give you everything. I just need to survive this. I don't even think I can make it. Well, then Bright gets done. And now all of a sudden I'm like, I haven't made a paycheck in 6-9 months. Got this big old pregnant wife. I can't afford to not have this money. So I kept it. And that gnawed away at me. I still think about it sometimes.
You hadn't done what you said.
I hadn't done what I said I was going to do. So then whenever we sold the duplex, I gave all that money away. And so we made more in the duplex than we did on Bright. And I still think about that though. Like a time where I really messed up and I wasn't careful about what I said to the Lord when I made this promise of like, Lord, if you get me through this, and he got me through something that was probably one of the most difficult things Bright is still probably one of the most difficult things I've ever gone through in my life.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry I gave you that money and put you
through No. I needed it though. Like that's the thing. And it's funny because Liliana, my oldest, who's 6, she's just started her chores of every day. She packs my gym bag. She packs my lunchbox every day when I come home, and she does that. Actually just yesterday, she was crying. She was trying to figure out how to make the smoothie. She spilt some stuff. She couldn't figure out how to pack something. She was lost in the job. And, I was talking with Libby. I said, this is really good for her because right now she's being stretched by life. Yeah. And I think something about our American culture is we try to protect kids way too. I remember this is like a junior high pastor. Parents would try to helicopter over their kids. And it's like at some point, because if they don't learn now, I hit this. Life hit me like a brick wall. I was going 100 miles an hour. I had no idea that things could go sideways. And then bam, you hit that wall. And it's like, you feel like your life's over. But you really just hit some adversity. We're just protected way too much from it. That's my personal opinion, the way that we kind of parent our kids. And so, for Liliana, it's like I'm constantly trying to see if she gets comfortable in one level of chore, I want her to be able to go to the next level so she can grow. But at the same time, she's also got a batch of chicks right now that she's raised out from when they were young. She's about to sell them as laying hens. Any day now, they'll start laying. And it's her first investment deal ever.
This is Liliana.
Yeah, this is Liliana, my 6-year-old. So she's already investing and she's learning how to do harder chores, versus, and I'm not saying anything against different styles of parenting, but like what we try to stay away from is just sitting in front of the iPad all day.
There you go.
Because they're not really growing. And so, but for me, growing up, I didn't really have any job. In fact, I wanted to get jobs. I wasn't allowed to have jobs. My parents wanted me to focus on my education. But I remember specifically there was a couple summers that my buddy was working on a tree farm, and I wanted to work on a tree farm too. It would have been so healthy for me to go through that manual labor, work on that tree farm, learn what it was like to break my back and sweat a good day's workout, and start to learn, like, A, how to get through adversity, B, why I wanted to get an education so I didn't have to break my back every day for the rest of my life. Not to say there's anything wrong with that line of living. I got plenty of family members that are, blue collar. Exactly. And I still love like that. If I could, I say all the time, like, I think if I could earn a good living as, in farming or something like that, that's what I would actually love to do. I'm just in real estate because it's a really good vehicle for where I feel the Lord's called me to be. But anyways, going back to Bright, at the end of the day, when you look at the duplex, I didn't have good decision-making skills at that time. And when you look at Bright, I just didn't know how to get through adversity in my life. And so I had to kind of learn the hard way by just hitting wall after wall after wall after wall. And it's a miracle that I'm still married. My wife is so gracious. I love the heck out of Libby. Like she has so much great wife. She's an amazing wife. I don't deserve her. I put her through tons, going through this learning process, but I'm glad that I did it. Like you said, the Lord's got a purpose in every single one of our journeys. He's had a purpose in yours. He's got a purpose in mine.
That's right. So how did things turn around? Because here you are, you got that house on the market, you buy a second one, she's freaking out.
Yeah.
And then you started moving guys in there.
Yep.
That house, and you rented it out, but you didn't.
So we had 6 bedrooms.
In that house,
we had 6. It was a duplex. We had 3 bedrooms on either side. If all 6 bedrooms were rented, we made money. Depending on how it was set up, because some of the bedrooms were more per month than others. If we had 5 of them, we were like right about break even. Any less than 5, we were losing money every month. Steve, I think we might have had 1 or 2 months with 6 guys. I think I owned the house for like 2 years. The rest of the time we had 4 to 5, maybe 3.
They come and go.
Dude, I was losing money like every single month. So here I am, barely made any money. Now I buy this duplex. Now I'm pretty much losing money every single month. So I have my wife who's working, at a part-time at a daycare center, making barely any money, and a huge chunk of the little that we had, because we made like $1,200 a month, and now I'm like $200-300 a month. I'm like, well, that's got to go. Like, how we survived making like $14,000 a year is absolutely, I still don't understand. I mean, we lived off of instant mashed potatoes and, probably like the chicken that was about to go bad, so it was discounted, and you had to eat it like that day, and it had a little bit of a funk smell to it. But if you could get past that, you survive. But still, it was a rough beginning.
Now, where were you guys living? You were living with one of your parents, I think.
No, we were living in an apartment complex here. We were behind my parents. We were living in an apartment complex in Central Arlington, basically.
So, I don't know how you made it.
I honestly don't. I mean, rent was like $600.
Well,
it's a little bit cheaper, but
here's the great thing: is what impressed me is you made your payments every month.
It was hard, but we pushed.
I mean, I'm sitting here thinking, this poor guy, he's got a wife and now a child, and he's paying me so I can pay.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, that money's not just sitting in the bank. We got to get that money from somewhere.
Yeah.
We got to make our payments.
100%.
And so
you got to hold your word. Like,
I know
that's a huge part of how I built contacts in this game, is by staying, to my word. But
once you had done that,
once
you'd done that, and then COVID came, and I wasn't able to function, and my wife was doing all that. By that time, I was convinced that your word really was as good as gold, because by that time you were making money.
Yeah, that helps.
And during the time when you weren't making any money, when you were barely scraping by, you still made your payments every month, and you did what you said you were going to do, and I was impressed. And so I think there's those times of testing where we're watching people and we're thinking, are they going to do what they said they're going to do?
Yeah,
and you did, and we trusted you because of that, and the Lord trusted you. And now, I mean, fast forward now, how many years later? 5-6 years later, you're pretty successful.
Praise the Lord. Yeah.
And of course,
but I'll throw this out there because I want to talk about it at some point. We live in a fifth wheel. So from some perspective, some might not look at it as successful, but we also have like way more than the average person's net worth because of the decisions that we made, and we started making decisions differently. But if you even go all the way back to the duplex, so many people that I talk to never change their life because they're never confident enough just to make that jump. Is it going to hurt? Probably. Like, is it going to be scary? Probably. Do most people lose money on their first just to invest? Like, how many people I talk to? I'm sure you've talked to so many people. How many conversations have you had? I know I've had tons where people want to know about investing, but they never do anything about it.
Well, I finally stopped having those conversations.
Right.
I'm like, I met with how many people, and you did it. You did what I told you to do.
Yeah.
I didn't tell you how to do it. You actually did it. And Craig Kamali, you know Craig Kamali?
I don't.
He actually did it also. But so many people, they want the easy way to make money in real estate. And
it is not easy. Flipping a house is not. I tell that to people all the time. People will come in, realtors or non-realtors looking to get in the game. They're like, I just want to flip a house. I'm like, flipping a house kind of sucks,
especially now.
Yeah,
where you can't. I mean, with us back in the 90s, we're buying these little. I mean, they were small houses, but still, we're buying them for $20,000. We think, okay, if we lose everything, we still got a lot.
Yeah,
an empty lot.
Yeah,
if the house burns down, that's probably worth $10,000.
Yeah.
So it was a risk, but it wasn't. Now it's hard to get in the game.
It's very hard to get in the game.
I think I've talked to people in the past week who said, "I want to do what you did."
Yeah.
Like, well, it's
joint ventures are the way to go.
Which means
joint ventures mean that you partner up with somebody else, really bringing skill sets together. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's always about you got to have somebody to find the deal and sell the deal. Typically, that's going to be a real estate agent. You got to have somebody that's going to do the work. That's typically going to be somebody like your tradesman, your handyman, right? And then you got to have somebody that's going to fund the deal. You got to have a money guy. If you can bring those three pieces together, some people can do it all on their own. They got enough money, they can hire the tradespeople out themselves, and then they'll hire a real estate agent. That's at the top.
We did it all, and we
did
hired
it all,
the trades
right.
people. We were doing. We were dirty. We were crawling under houses. I remember one time we had a sewage. We had renters in a house.
Yeah.
And the pipe underneath had rusted through. And they were saying, kind of smell stuff. We came over to open the crawl space, and it's a foot of water in there. Not a foot of water, it's a foot of sewage.
Oh my gosh.
And they were mad.
Yeah.
So guess what we did?
Crawled under there.
We were crawling under there.
Get yourself a little shot back.
It was bad.
Yeah.
So, if you can hire the people out.
Yeah.
But back then we were on such a, we're just these little houses. How can you afford to hire people for $10,000 when the house is only going to sell for $45,000?
But really, and this is a lot of the conversations I have with people is so many people get, and you've probably seen this, so many people get so fixated on making money. And I tell them, just focus on bringing value. The money will come. If you bring enough value, the marketplace rewards value in dollars. So just focus on bringing value. So in that sense of structuring a deal like that, if you want to go down the road of finding and selling the deal, okay, you got to then step up, become a real estate agent, figure out how to deliver value in that mechanism. If you know how to do all the work yourself, okay, now you're a contractor who knows how to do all the work inside the deal. That's how you can bring value. And then there's some people out there who have money, but they just don't even know where to start as far as like finding a deal, doing the work on a deal, but having the money, that's huge value in and of itself. It's all about building a team, and that's important in so many different aspects. Yeah.
So what are you doing now? What is your business now?
So I'm one of the co-owners of Ambition X Real Estate, which is a real estate brokerage. I've also got my own investment company, Kale Cash Real Estate. The main thing that I do on the real estate investing side is land development. Right now, minor land development, which is basically taking a big piece of land. It's like cutting a pie. You just cut it up into a couple different chunks. And, if you were to go to the grocery store and you were to buy, let's say you bought a pie, you could probably buy a pie for, let's say $2, right? But if I take that same pie and I split it up into, let's say 8 different slices, I can sell each one of those slices for $1. By the time I've sold 2-3 slices, now I'm at break even. The rest of it's just a cherry on top. Like that's where all my profit's built in. I do the same thing on land. I like land because you don't have to deal with all the headaches of flipping a house and the construction side of things. Land's just easier.
Are you doing this in the city limits or is this
outside of city limits? Yeah,
only outside.
Yeah. I don't really I'm not really much for all the inspections and stuff like that. And I don't develop them with houses and everything. I'd like to get to that point one day, but for all of us, life's a journey. I'm just not to that place in my journey yet. I'm just cutting up the pieces of land, turning around, selling them. People can usually drop mobiles on them or they can drop houses on them. They're unrestricted land. There will be utilities at the street and they can just come in and develop it however they want.
So where's your land? Where are the pieces of land?
So I've got a JV deal, a joint venture deal down in Alvarado. That's one that we bought 13 acres. We split it into 6 different lots, and now we have 2 left that are still for sale. If anybody wants any land in Alvarado, you're more than welcome to buy it. And I'll give you a $10 coupon if you mention this episode. Do what?
That's right. Is that in the city limits or outside of city?
Outside of city limits, yeah. So I try to stay outside of city limits, and I try to stay outside of ETJs. So I don't know how technical we want to get, but ETJs are just basically a way for you're not inside of city limits, but the city still has something to say about what happens as far as development goes. It's called an extraterritorial jurisdiction. You can get out of them, but it just makes the process a little bit more complicated. So we've got the one in Alvarado. We've got, and then we've got another one out in East Texas in Troop, Texas. And so those are the 2 land deals that we have, going right now. Yeah.
So the one out there, same kind of thing.
It is. It's almost 4 acres. Bought it for, like somewhere around, I think it was like 55. We'll put another probably about 10 into it between taxes, replat, stuff like that. So we'll be all in about 65, and we'll be able to sell each of the 3 lots then for about 50,000 back out. So it'll be about 150.
So this is what you're doing with your own personal business, or this is what you're doing with the...
That's what I do on the investing side. Yeah. So then the brokerage side, when we created the brokerage, it was really, constantly I'm having conversations with agents going, how do you invest? Right. And to me, it's like, you're already a licensed real estate agent. Like you help people do this all the time. Like you're a hop, skip, and a jump away from investing. All you got to do is just buy it. The other side is, and you've experienced this being in real estate, what an agent would call excellence in their skill or their craft as an agent is a huge range. I might have an agent over here I can hardly get a hold of, and they say they're doing a great job. Then I have an agent over here who's blowing my mind at how amazing they're doing, and they think they're doing a great job. We wanted to kind of close that gap. So really our purpose is twofold. How do we create excellence in all that we do? And how can we, teach agents to do investing? And really in that, it kind of grew to how can we create opportunities to reach our full potential? And so just opening up opportunities for agents, whether that be your traditional buyer and seller leads, whether that be doing the investing. Ideally, like we have a 3-tier system, and I won't go like too deep into the weeds on it, but essentially our goal is to take an agent from making no money to, our first tier goes from 0 to 100K. How do we just get you stable income, right? Because that's what for most people need when they're starting up in the game. It's like, I just need a paycheck. Okay, we'll get you that paycheck. Here's how we do that. We do that on our co-pilot team. The next phase is the solo agent. The solo agent is now you got enough skill sets to be dangerous, but you don't have processes and systems that you've developed and implemented for yourself. So while you can get crazy busy on your own, you're going to have a hard time ever hiring somebody because you barely could explain your process to somebody else. It pretty much looks like I wake up, I run around like a chicken with my head cut off all day, and then I go to sleep, right? So it's hard to hire somebody into that. We teach you how to build systems, build hiring processes so that you can scale your business closer to like 150, 200, 250,000 a year. And then finally from there is mission control. It's like, how do we then go from making $250,000 a year to actually building out a team where you're not working in the business every day, but you're working on the business. And that's where you really start to scale up into bigger money.
So these guys are paying you to teach them how to do that.
No. I mean, a little bit, anybody who joins a brokerage is going to pay, like typically there will be some like annual or monthly fee, but we keep our fees super low. We just try to deliver tons of value.
So you're bringing these people into your brokerage.
So correct. But licensed real estate agents. And then when they make a sale, we make money off of the split on the backside.
I see. But you're not a broker.
So there's a difference between a brokerage and a broker. So a brokerage is just a legal entity that is where everything's housed. And then you have a broker of record that's the real estate agent who's taking all the legal responsibility. So I own the brokerage. Funny enough, at the time of this recording, I'm not even a licensed real estate agent. So I own a real estate brokerage. I do not, just for clarification, disclaimer, I do not in any way advise the agents on how to do legal procedures according to TREC and things of that nature. I just teach them how to sell, how to market themselves, things of that nature. I'm getting my license right now so I can actually go on the front lines and show them, look, guys, I built this process out in multiple different investing environments. I'm going to show you exactly how to do it as a real estate agent. That's what I'm working on, this year in 2026. But that wasn't really the original reason why I got into it. But even going back to like what we were doing during COVID, the reason I stopped doing that, even though I was making really good money, is I didn't feel like I was really bringing the most ethical and high level value that I could to these sellers after getting into the real estate agent game, realizing how the level of expectations for most real estate agents and where the bar kind of sets. I'm like, I can raise that bar a little bit. Number one, and number two, just saying like, whenever you're a real estate agent, you're actually delivering the highest level of value to people in the sense of like you're helping them to buy their dream home or to sell their home for the most money possible. Whereas, in the investment game, you're trying to buy somebody's home for the least amount of money possible. And that just didn't usually sit right with me. And that was a hard part of that game. That's why I love this kind of traditional side more. And then I can take, the surplus of profits that I make here, because here's the big problem. I just had an agent that did this the other day. And it's different because I live in a fifth wheel. I drive a little Ford Fiesta, which you wouldn't expect because I wear of the way I look. You think I drive a truck, and I'm close. My goal was I didn't want to buy a truck until I wanted my vehicle to be less than 10% of my positive net worth. And so when we have our next deal close, I'll be able to go buy a truck cash, and it'll be less than 10% of net worth. And it's still going to be used. It's going to be a used truck. Like I'm not going, crazy. But that's been a goal for the last few years. But I see agents who they start making money for the first time. People do it in the normal world too. And the second that they make money, it's like, okay, now you finally have some firing power to start building some wealth, just like you've asked me about tons of times over. And what did they go do? They buy a new house. They buy a new car.
That's right.
They spend all their money on Starbucks. And it's like, dude, why are you even asking me these questions if you're just going to go spend your money on all these liabilities instead of actually building assets and creating that wealth?
I think it's a mindset.
Oh, 100%.
I think there's a sense of, well, that's what we need in life.
You're right. Well, and it's kind of the American way. It's consumerism.
And
I think it's terrible.
Well, this is why, I like we talked about, people always want to know, how do you do this? How do you do this? And
can you say no to yourself for long enough and go through enough pain to out-survive everybody else? And then you're there.
That's what it is. But as when people have come in this room, like, they set up a meeting, I want to talk to you about how to do real estate. And I have no secrets.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not trying to keep anything from anybody, but truthfully, I think, I don't know if I need another meeting about this. What I started to do as people met with me, and not so many anymore, because now I'm not doing, I've been a pastor for 26 years now.
Sure.
And of course I did some real estate in the middle of that. And I did, I had my hands in, but most of it was those 5 years before I became a pastor after moving from Japan. But as people have come and asked me, so how did you do this? I've sat here in this room and I've said, I can tell you how I did it. What you want to know is how I did this, but what I want to know from you is why.
Everyone told me
how is
so
important.
good.
In fact, I might have told you this when we
just the other day, and I thought it was so good.
Because the question is not how do I make all this money. The question is, why do you want to make all this money?
Right.
And I get to talk to students across the street here. They're all, what are you majoring in? Well, I'm majoring in this. Why are you majoring in that? Because I can make a lot of money. Well, if you made a lot of money, what are you going to do with it? Well, I'm going to invest it. Like, okay, if you invest it and you make $5 million, well, what are you going to do? And they kind of, I've seen this so many times, they kind of say, well, I'd invest more. And the question is,
here's the thing though, if you can't learn how to invest $5, you're never going to be able to invest 5 million. And I think that's just where people miss the mark, is they think, oh, if I had all this money, I would. And it's like, if you can't be disciplined with this, you're never going to be disciplined with that.
Okay. So, but
the why reason, I know you're,
why reason. Why do you want to make $5 million?
Right.
In fact, what's interesting, I was just in South Asia. We checked ourselves into this hotel, and in this one city where we were doing some stuff. And of course, everywhere I go, that person's my new best friend. So the guy who owned the hotel, he's 23 years old.
Oh, no
way. I was so impressed. And it wasn't a huge hotel, but
should have interviewed him.
I know. I know. So as we're talking, I said, well, you're 23 years old. You own this little hotel. And so he's kind of telling me a story. I said, so what are you going to do if you get successful? And he said, I'm going to buy more hotels. I said, then what are you going to do? Yeah, I'm going to buy more. And so I said, how much would be enough? And he said, I don't know. I said, well, the reason I'm asking, he was very interested in what I was sharing with him. The question is, how much does a person want?
Right. Because
if they don't make that decision, in fact, the guy that introduced me to my business partner back when I first moved to Texas, that day he gives a 3-hour crash course in how to do real estate. And that was all. That we learned. But the one important thing he asked us is, you guys need to decide right now how much is enough. Because if you don't decide how much is enough, you're never going to have enough.
Right.
And Scott, my business partner, and I really took that to heart. So when we started buying houses together, he said, let's decide.
Yeah.
I was like, I've never thought about it before. I mean, I was expecting to make $1 a day like the people I grew up with, and if I made any more than that,
Hot dog.
that was more than enough to buy rice and beans. So he said, here's what I think we should do. Let's get 30 houses. Let's get 30 rental houses and stop there. And we did. We had 30 rental. When I became a pastor, we had 30 rental properties. And of course, we don't have that now. I don't, I'm doing pastoring, but it was really good because it actually is what enabled me to become a pastor, because here we got 30 properties.
Right.
It's like that. We did what we said we were going to do.
Yeah.
And we didn't have a lot of cash flow.
Right.
But we could see the light at the end of the tunnel. We could see that it was coming. And so we're like, okay, we got 30 houses and I got the freedom now to go do ministry. And that was a gradual process.
Right.
But the why question is so important.
Yeah.
For every one of us.
It really is.
If you're making, you're making $50,000 working at some company right now, and you're thinking, if only I could make 60 or 100.
Right.
And I think the question that we need to ask the people who we love, who are trying to make it big,
100%.
is okay, what do you want to do?
Right.
And I think the reason that that's important is because you've probably heard me talk about this before, but it's 3 things you can spend your money on. You spend it on yourself.
Yeah. Me,
You
myself,
spend
and I.
That's right. You can also spend it on other people.
Right.
God's kingdom. And the third thing you can do is invest it.
Yeah.
Invest it so that next year you got more of these first 2 categories.
Right.
And so as I might have asked you this years ago when we first talked. Did we talk about this before? I don't know.
Well, you actually did. You talked about this the other day. And one of our things in 2026 is, so we already, have our tithe, but then we bumped our giving to others up to 2%, because you said bump it up by 1% every single year. You told me about this. Yeah. So bumping it up by 1% every single year to get to the 33, 33,
You're
33.
doing what I told you.
We did it.
Bro,
it's all about application.
Bonus.
Yeah. So we're at 2% this year.
2%
plus the 10%. So we're at 12% for giving. And then this last year, when we looked at it, we ended up living off of about, I think it was like 35, 40% of what we made. Yeah. We gave away about 11%, and then the rest of it was invested. So, a huge chunk of our income.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so much fun because I think it was probably about 25 years ago when in my quiet time, my time with the Lord in the morning, as I was studying through Deuteronomy 8 and 9, and what the Lord's saying He's going to bless Israel and why He's going to bless them is so important.
Yeah.
But as I'm reading through there, I thought, that the whole tithe thing I struggled with, because I grew up with people who didn't have food to eat.
Right.
And didn't have, my friends' babies died because they didn't have medicine. And so I'm just thinking, I'm here in America, and the expectation is you're a Christian, you're going to give 10% of the church. And I'm like, I had some cognitive dissonance over this. And I thought, how can I give 10% to churches in America when my friends don't have food to eat and they don't have food to feed their babies?
Well, and it's hard too when you see so much of that budget just going to expansion all the time.
Well,
and we're like comfier seats, and it's like, dude,
but not at our church.
No, not at our church. But I know at large, like that is a real struggle.
But I just struggle with it.
It's a struggle.
It's like, what? How can I do this? But still, I felt like I need to give money to church. So that day, 25 years ago, I thought, I just need to. I think it dawned on me, the reason God was blessing me was not because I'm such a good guy. The reason God was blessing me is not because I worked so hard. I did work hard. We worked so hard.
Right.
But I thought, it was like the Lord was speaking to me that day and said, you're working hard, but there's kids on the street in third world countries who are selling gum to people driving by on the roads. And they're working hard, and they're not making anything like what you've made. Yeah. And the reason that you are gonna make money, we're already starting to make money, is not because you're so good, not because you're righteous, and not because you work so hard, but because I want to use you to bless the world. Yeah. Do you understand?
Right.
And right now you're trying to live on 90% and give 10% to the church or to people in third world countries. How about you understand the reason why I'm blessing you and give yourself to this? And it was that day that I realized there's 3 things I can do with my money.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to spend 90% of myself.
Right.
I mean, we had been investing. We've been investing every
Yeah.
penny that we could.
Yeah.
But the reason for investing changed with me that day.
Right.
The reason for investing was I'm alive to fulfill the thing that I felt in my heart when I was a kid,
100%.
to bless these people that don't have food or medicine.
Right.
And I came down. We were living in a house right over here that we bought for $27,000, and came downstairs and I said, we're not tithing anymore. Starting this year, we're giving 15%. And next year, we're going to give 16%, and we're going to give, and then 17%. We're going to raise it 1% each year until we get to 33%. And then we're going to live on 33%. We're going to give away 33%, including the tithe to the church.
Right.
And then we're going to invest 33%.
Yeah.
And so it took us 18 years to get there.
Yeah.
Start at 15% and 1% a year. Now we give away 33%.
Yeah.
That means I give away at least as much as what we live on.
Yeah.
It's
But you know
so
what's crazy?
fun.
Most people probably think that you need to make $1 million a year to do that. And I'm sure you could say that that's not the case.
We didn't make $1 million a year.
You just have to budget your money, and you have to tell your money where to go and make that decision up front of, I mean, because I know you don't drive the fanciest car. You don't live in the fanciest home. You say no to yourself so that you have the opportunity to go out here and live a life of impact like that. And that's what I love.
So so let me ask you.
Yeah.
Well, okay, let me ask you, how much is enough for you?
How much
And
is enough for
I
me?
might replay this video for you
Yeah.
20 years from now if I'm still around.
Yeah.
But how much, I mean, if you made that much, you'd say, you know what? I think I got enough.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Steve. I don't have a ceiling, and I know it goes totally against what you just said. I think that I'll be a billionaire in my lifetime, not because I don't even care about having. There's at that point, like you hit a point where you have, I think, a couple $1 million. It starts to make less and less of a difference, right? It's $1 billion of impact, and I've seen how much $1 can do in the world around us. And so, the only way I think I never hit $1 billion is if I redeploy my money back out into the world for the good of others so fast that it never has a chance to, really compound on itself. But the whole reason I got into investing was actually not to make money for myself. Libby and I, before we got married, we were taking launch with Brian Andrews.
Right.
We thought we were going to hit the mission field. We had no, I remember whenever we were first, I think we were engaged at this time, but Libby had a savings that was like partly, funded by her parents growing up, partly funded by her. It was all the money that we really had saved up because I didn't have anything because, again, I hadn't really worked. And we gave all that away because we really saw just how in so many different people, money was at the forefront of everything they thought about. And we were like, we don't want money to be this all-consuming factor for us in our marriage. So we gave all that away early on, and it actually went to fund a really cool mission trip that happened for Grace and opened up a really cool opportunity for some pastor conferences and some really hard-to-reach places. Then we were down to zero. But we were planning to go to the mission field. Then the Lord kind of redirected that, and some opportunities opened up for me to help lead junior high. I was the associate coordinator of youth or something like that, but I basically led the junior high program at that time. And we're like, okay, I guess maybe this is like where the Lord has us to go, because when we were praying about, because in launch we pray about like where does the Lord have us to go. Both Libby and I separately got the word financial launch pad, but like at separate places. So I came to her, I was like, you'll never believe what I heard. This is totally weird. It's a financial launch pad. She's like, I heard the exact same thing. That's crazy. So to us, it was like, okay, if we both heard that same kind of very odd thing separately, and when we were trying to move away from money, but hear financial launch pad, question mark. So, but I'm a associate pastor at Grace. I was, kind of working my way on this path to be a youth pastor. And I was like, okay, I'm at this very mission-minded church. Maybe this is what the Lord's going to do with my life is I'm going to be here. I'm going to be a pastor where this whole church's goal is to launch missionaries and things like that. That's a financial launch pad for ministry. Yeah. This is probably where the Lord has me. Man plans his ways. The Lord directs his steps. Things changed. Didn't end up going down that route. All those doors, like all of a sudden, just started closing at once. And so then it was like, well, what do we do now? All I've had to cling onto for so many years was just that I felt this deep calling to be a financial launch pad. Did not, just to be clear, I don't feel any calling to be rich. I don't feel any calling to have a lot of money. I don't feel any calling to live a life of exuberance. I feel a calling to be a financial launch pad. So how can we send it back out? And that's where I was like, well, I guess investing probably makes the next best sense. It's got to be business, got to be investing, something like that. Then we got into real estate, and it's just kind of been this slow growing snowball from there. But I'll be honest with you, Steve, when you start making, everybody has all these good intentions, including myself. It sounds like you were pretty disciplined, so go you. But for me, I was less disciplined. You have all these good ideas when you start making money, and then you hit this point where you're like, oh, well, I'm not making enough money yet to start making impact. But when I get to that point, which may be what you're saying when you say that, of like, what's that point? But I was like, I don't have enough money yet. But when I have more money, I will spend it on the important things. We weren't good at budgeting either. You know, I had years through there where we were making, you know, pretty good into the six figures. But we really had nothing to show for it. Hit this point where everything was just kind of collapsing in on us. You know, I could have paid off, we lived in a house down in Joshua. I could have paid it off cash. Like I could have paid off all the cars cash, could have paid off the house cash. I look back and regret that I didn't do that. We also could have been giving to missionaries and doing things like that. Now our whole financial lifestyle has totally changed. We own my car cash. We own Libby's van cash. We own, you know, we live in a fifth wheel, but we own it cash. We are completely a cash lifestyle, and we give to, Libby would know better. We pray for multiple missionary families. I know for sure one family that we give to. I think we give to two. Libby takes care of like how it all gets sent out and stuff like that. But we give more money now to ministry, living this smaller lifestyle. And to be honest with you, Steve, you know, we're having one, maybe two more kids, we'll see, in a fifth wheel. And it sounds crazy. And yes, it's a small space, but I love my life. I love the freedom. Right? No. So we actually live in a very luxurious fifth wheel. So we have a main quarters that you come into when you first come in, and then we've got a room in the back and we've got a room in the front. Wow. We really get to spread out. It's 400 square feet of just absolute awesomeness. 400 square feet.
I love it. With right now 5 people.
5.
Maybe 6 or 7.
6 or 7, yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, maybe on one of these we'll do a tour of the fifth wheel.
That's great, yeah.
But no, we made it work. We live with a lot of dollhouse furniture is what we call it, because everything's smaller. But everything about our lifestyle is smaller. And it allows us to really invest our time and our energy and our finances back into the places that we see as being the most important. And it's given us just a whole different perspective on consumerism and the American lifestyle and the American dream. Yeah, I call it the American lie now. I think there is an American dream, but I think 95% of people have it totally mixed up. I think to me, the American dream is the ability to have opportunities to grow in ways that most people don't in other countries because of the way that our economy runs, the way that, things are set up. The American dream isn't having a lot of stuff. That's an American lie. That consumerism is a lie. It's the opportunity to work hard and be able to become more tomorrow than you are today. That's good. But yeah, so I can't remember where we were going with that exactly. What's enough? Yeah. I'm content where I'm at right now. I don't think I want to live in a fifth wheel forever, but I can tell you that I'm actually deeply at peace. It's embarrassing sometimes to tell people I live in a fifth wheel. I'll say that.
Only the people who misunderstand the American dream. Right. I mean, you tell me you live in a fifth wheel, I think, man,
to people like you, I'm excited to tell.
I love you more than I did. I didn't know you were living in a fifth wheel, but it just makes me think, wow, this is the kind of people that we need to be raising up, because the reason you're living in a fifth wheel is not because your dream was to live in a fifth wheel, but because your dream was to use this life of yours to bring glory to the King, right? By giving him all, and if giving him all means right now living simply, and blessing people, and sending money to overseas, or even like you've been steady. What you just said, I don't know, for giving money to the church, you're doing it out of love for the King. And if you're really going to take, I'm just blessed that you took my advice and you're like added a couple percent to what
we're at 12% now. So we got our 10% tithes, we got our 2% given.
If you, I don't know how far you're going to go on that, because
we're 33 across the board.
If you do that, it blesses me, because what if everybody did that?
I know.
What if here's what's so great about it is I have 33% of my income You know, I do my taxes at the end of the year, or who knows when I'll get my taxes done this year, but because it's complicated. But I take my AGI and I take 1/3 of that and I stick it on a spreadsheet.
And just so AGI is
Adjusted gross
Yeah,
income.
okay.
I guess is what it's,
yeah.
And
How much
and
you
then
make?
how much I make.
Yep.
And I take that and I take 33%. I stick it on a spreadsheet, and then as we give money, that we just put it on that spreadsheet.
Yeah,
And it's so much fun
it is.
because I mean it was like I said in South Asia, and Kim Son was with me, and he was like he just kept talking about how generosity is what matters, because he was watching me as I'm talking with all these pastors who are living on. I mean, they're living on nothing. They're living on $1 or $2 a day,
Which is crazy.
It's crazy. And I'm thinking, okay, here's some money for I can't give it to everybody.
Yeah.
But
if they're making on $2 a day, you're talking at monthly incomes like
it's one of my dreams.
$60.
You already know what we're doing in the Philippines. That we've got about 100 kids in our program in the Philippines. But I think I'd like to do the same thing for pastors. And next month I'm going to another Middle East country, a poor country, and I'm doing a 2-day conference in 4 cities. So 8 days of teaching pastors, and these guys are impoverished. And in fact, one of the pastors in India, they were just like, he doesn't read.
Dude.
So he's got
is it audio? He does like audio Bible?
Proclaimer.
Okay.
This little thing that is solar powered, where you listen. And we'd ordered a bunch of those through Wycliffe and some other organizations. So he listens and listens and listens and memorizes it, and then he preaches.
Wow.
And he can't read. I mean, these are village level pastors.
Yeah.
And $30. I mean,
here's the thing though. I just went to Chipotle with the family the other night, and it cost us like $45. And so like what I would challenge anybody who's watching this is every time you go out to eat, just think about the fact of like right now you're eating what it costs to fund a pastor for an entire month. And that meal is going to be done in 30 minutes.
I think what I've had to learn is not to guilt people.
Sure. But it's just perspective.
Yeah, really. Yeah. I mean, I lived in guilt for years. I mean, I remember as a kid, of course, as a kid, I ate when my parents fed me.
Yeah.
But then by the time that I was in high school and I realized the imbalance, I mean, obviously we lived simply and we ate what the people ate. But there were times where my parents were mad at me, like, eat your food. And I was like, how can I eat this why do we got the best? Why do we got a chicken and they don't? Yeah. And I struggled with it. And I lived. I mean, almost all my friends passed away before I got out of high school. Man. And I remember the conversations with my dad, because at the times when I was so sick that I was going to die, the mission plane would fly in, and pick us up and take us out, and that happened 2 or 3 times. And and I remember having the conversation with my dad. Why you saved me? Right. Why you saved me? What about him? Yeah. My dad, and of course my dad was, he says, son, I can't call the plane every time somebody's sick. Yeah. I can't call the plane every time somebody's going to die. That's not what we're here for. Yeah. We're here to do what we can do. But it bothered me. So then when I came to the States, I mean, I detested people with money, because I felt, in my misunderstanding way, I felt like if they were like Jesus, they'd share their money with all the poor people like me. Yeah. And of course I had to learn that these were good people too. But I went for, so many years of feeling, like if I did get a hamburger, I didn't get cheese on it, because that was an extra 30 cents or whatever. Yeah. And just struggle. And of course my kids had to grow up for part of that time. But actually it was when I came to Grace, and one of our pastors who's now with the Lord, and he started realizing what I was struggling with and the guilt I felt. And he's like, I remember one time he stuck his finger in my face and said, Steve, that's stinking thinking. And he was like, stop thinking like you can't have a Coke. So that feeling of like what you just said, going to Chipotle and thinking, I just spent $40 that could have kept the pastor fed for a month. I think the potential for guilt, at least in my life, was huge. Sure. Here's the great thing. I got enough money now. I can buy Chipotle
There you go.
and send the money
Yeah.
to the pastor.
Well, and I think it really just comes down to budgeting, right? So it's like we have the money for Chipotle, but we also have how much set aside that we're going to give. And so it's like I know that we have separate funds. I think the hard part is when people, for most people, they just spend and spend and spend, which is like one of the big things that, we talk about at FPU with Dave Ramsey stuff. It's why I'm like a big advocate for all of, just that money management process, because something I was terrible at. And you have these conversations with people like, oh, when I make more money, I'll give. It's not, it's how you manage the money that you have. It goes back to the parable with the talents, right? About how did they manage what they had, right? And you had the one guy that managed 5 talents well. You had the one other guy that managed 2 talents well. And then you had the one guy with the 1 talent who buried it in the ground, didn't manage it well. And at the end,
the master was angry.
Exactly. It's all about how you manage it. So, yeah.
Well, I think when you get the joy of helping people, there's nothing else you want to do.
Right.
I'm thinking, is there anything I want for myself in my life? Sometimes my kids, what the car that I drive right now?
Yeah.
With Kiana, my daughter, she was like, Dad, you're not broke anymore. Buy yourself a car that isn't uncomfortable when you drive it. And I thought, how can I do that? And I thought, why not? So I spent more on the car than I want to tell my friends back in the village, because they're like, you spent how much on a car? But it's not an extravagant car,
right?
Because why? Here's the great news: it's if in that parable that you just mentioned, the master returns,
right,
and he rewards those servants based on what they did with what he'd given them.
Yeah.
He didn't give them all the same amount.
Right.
In that parable.
Right.
The other parable is another story Jesus is telling for a time, but in that parable, he gives them different amounts because not all of us has the same thing.
Right.
But the guy who got the 1 talent wasn't responsible to produce 5.
Right. The
guy with 2 talents, he could only produce 2 more.
Right.
So each of us has been given a different amount. I think this is really important because with these pastors in the poor countries where I'm doing these pastors trainings, they think, well, if I had what you had, I could do something for the Lord. And I'm saying,
start where you're at.
You remember the boy with the little lunch?
Yeah.
5 loaves and 2 fish.
Yeah.
He's like, he don't got anything.
Right.
He got enough for himself, and that's it. But he gives everything he's got, and because of that, 5,000 people are fed.
Yeah.
And so, let's be the people. Everybody who's watching also. Let's be the kind of people that say, Lord, you can have everything I got.
Yeah.
Luke 14:33. Every one of you who does not give up everything he has cannot be my disciple.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can talk about Jesus. He didn't mean that or whatever. That's what he said.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and one of the things that I love that you were just talking about is about being a blessing, right? And how can you be a blessing on this journey that the Lord has you on as he continues to bless you with more? Because I don't see it in the Bible where it's like God wants to just give, think about the reason that he blessed the nation of Israel was because he wanted the nation of Israel to be a light for his kingdom around the entire world. And one of the stories that I love that I heard one time in a sermon was with David. You remember when King David, he was currently living with the Philippines. Saul was still king. He went out to battle with them. They sent him back home. Whenever he gets back home, I can't remember what the Moabites maybe had raided their place and taken all the wives and everything like that. And all the men wanted to kill David.
Yeah.
So then David prayed about it. They set out and they find some dude who's like half dead.
That's right.
They're trying to find their wives and their children and all of their stuff. And he stops and he takes the time to take care of this man who's dying. Well, it turns out after they bring this man to life, do you remember what the dude knew?
He knew where they were.
He knew where they were. He knew who the people were. He knew how to get there. If David hadn't stopped and taken the time to bless this other guy on the journey that the Lord had him on, David would have probably gone around and around in circles and lost all of his family, his wife, all that. Everything would have just been gone. Mm-hmm. But it was because he was willing to say yes to the Lord when the Lord put somebody on his path that he was going to help along the way, that then he ended up getting his answer was looking for. And so in the sermon, and I think about this often, how can I be a blessing on the way to my blessing? Like,
Mm,
I know the
mhm,
Lord's got me on a path where he's taking me somewhere, and I might not see the full picture yet.
mhm.
With that being said, though, how can every day when I go out, when Lord puts different people along my path or different opportunities to give and things like that, how can my life not be just about Kendall?
Mhm.
But how can my life be about, helping give back, give to others and things like that?
Well, I know so many people that are doing that. In fact, this next trip that I'm taking to the Middle East to do these 8 days of pastors trainings, the pastor over there who's setting all this up, um, he told me what it was going to cost to do all this. I'm like, you got to be kidding! There's no way. I mean, I'm not even close. I mean, I can give you $1,000,
Yeah.
whatever, but there's no way. The amount of money that's going to take to put on these 4 conferences in 4 cities, 2 days each, is like, there's no way.
Yeah.
And so I tell him this businessman, I won't mention his name, who's a part of Grace Community Church. I told him, I don't think we're going to be able to do this, because he knew that I was going.
Mhm.
He said, I got it.
Wow.
I mean, I'm thinking, this is huge amount of money.
Yeah.
Paying for the whole. I mean, it's supposed to be 500. They said 500 pastors in each of these 4 conferences.
Wow.
So
2,000 people impact overall.
yeah, I mean, they often the numbers are inflated. So, but still,
Sure.
it's 1,000 pastors total. I mean, so the amount of money he's thinking, this is my investment in the kingdom.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's a question.
Every part of that body plays a different function, though, right? I mean, your heart and your fingers and your eyes and your ears and the hair and the toes and.
Well, he's actually the guy who wanted me to go there.
Yeah. Okay.
And I
okay.
told him, well, why do you want me to go? I mean, you've already been there, or you go ahead and do it. He said, no, Steve, you're the one who's supposed to go.
Wow.
And I know. And this is what the Lord has called me to. I can't believe I get to do these things. And the Lord provides. But back to investment, people ask me, what's the best thing to invest in? And I don't know what you tell them, but I turn to scripture. I say, Proverbs 19:17.
Yeah.
They're like, what's that? Proverbs 19:17 is incredible. He who gives to the poor lends to the Lord, and the Lord will repay him.
Yeah.
Here's the great. You can invest with Kendall, or invest with Steve, or invest with Lincoln, or whatever. Put your money somewhere, and you're going to get some interest back.
Yeah.
Hopefully. You invest with the Lord by giving to the people who the Lord loves, and the Lord repays better than anybody else could.
Yeah.
I mean, and how
I think we're all, including myself, going to get there and be like, dadgum, I just wish I had done more now that I see what the payoff is.
Oh, the payoff. For me, here's what, in Japan, I've been doing ministry in Japan for 34 years.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know any Japanese people, but you can't outgive a Japanese. We go there and it's like, we got some measly little gift, like, okay, here we're back in Japan. Here I have my keychain. Whatever you give comes back 10. I mean, it's like there's a competition to outgive. And it's embarrassing because we got, 1,000 people we're trying to give gifts to.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, here's a bag of M&Ms for America. And the next day it's a truckload of stuff. And you're just thinking, I can't outgive them.
Yeah.
But this is the way the Lord is, the King.
Yeah.
We can't outgive him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like, Lord, would you just take my offering and use it for your glory?
Yeah.
And he says, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he dumps more on. And it's to the point where I think, how did this happen?
Yeah.
How did I end up having more than enough? Of course, enough for me was $1 a day.
Yeah.
I grew up with people who made $1 a day. And my mindset when I got out of high school is, if they make $1 a day and survive, if I'm making more than $1 a day, then I'm rich.
Flourishing.
I mean, how do you find riches?
Yeah.
What does rich mean? You ask the people you're training. Define rich.
You're out earning the guy next to you.
They compare to the guy next to them.
Yeah.
But what if rich means you have enough to eat today? And if you got a hot shower,
right,
you're really rich.
Right.
And if you live with that mindset, you think
it changes your perspective.
It changes your perspective.
It does.
And of course, it's not fair because I grew up with that.
You were submersed in that.
I was submersed in people who were in poverty.
Yeah.
So it's, I can't make people have my perspective.
Yeah.
But when you get the perspective of I'm alive, not for me, I'm alive for the glory of the King
Yeah.
and all these people that he loves.
Yeah.
And they get to know him because of my financial investment.
Right.
And of course we work hard. We work.
Right.
But we're not working for money.
Exactly.
We're working for the King.
Exactly.
And if we're working for the King, I mean, if you go join the military, like you said you were thinking about doing, they pay your expenses.
Right.
So does the King.
Right.
And it's a privilege to live that way.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud of you because you're living that way. I mean, fifth wheel.
Yeah.
Six or seven people in a fifth wheel.
It's fun. I got a question for you though, Steve. Speaking about investing, because I would agree, the first most important thing you could ever invest in is your relationship with the Lord and giving back into the King and pouring in the kingdom. To me, the second most important thing that you can invest in is your family. And I try to set that it's a big priority in my life as far as time management, my energy, my attention. One of the things that I admire greatly about you, and I've never actually had the chance to ask you this question, so this will actually be the first time I get this answer from you, is your kids. I know a lot of, and I'm not trying to throw any shade on anybody when I say this. I know a lot of pastors whose kids walk away from church. They turn their backs on their parents. But when I see your kids, they all love the Lord. They all love you and Ruth. You'll have good relationships. What did you do investing in? Because it's something I want to know. I got 2, 4, and 6-year-old plus more on the way. I want to know how to do what you did. What is it that you did differently as you invested not only financially and invested into the kingdom of God, but also into your family? What is it you did differently in that journey?
I don't think I've done a great job. I mean,
but you did something.
As I'm looking at you,
a good tree bears good fruit, and you got good fruit to show.
I think all it was desperation from the Lord. But there, I look at you, what you're doing with your kids, and I look at my son-in-law Joe, the way he's raising. He's such a good dad, and I'm thinking, I made so many mistakes, and you do know my kids, and I've made mistakes partly because of my background and the what I said about getting cheese on a hamburger.
That ain't gonna kill him. I mean,
I know, but the feeling of guilt that my kids had, and the feeling that my daughter has shared with me, like she's 6 years old going to school in Japan. The one kid that can't speak Japanese, and she acted like she loved it. And she did at the time, but she said the feeling that she had of, if I mess up, I ruin God's ministry in Japan. I don't dare mess up. That's not good.
That's a heavy weight.
That's heavy weight. And, we've talked about this, and she's just the pressure of, if I mess up, my dad, because I told my kids, all three of them, I want you to know you're more important to me than all the ministry that I do. And if you ever want me to quit my job as a pastor, you say, and I'll quit the next day. And I've had people tell me, Steve, that's giving your kids way too much control. But I felt like I had to.
Yeah.
And of course, the kids are like, Dad, we're not going to, that just made us feel more pressure.
Yeah.
Because now we got, if we mess up, in fact, Kiana, when she'd get in trouble when she was in high school, Dad, don't quit your job. Don't quit your job. Don't quit your job. She didn't say this because she was afraid that I was going to quit to focus on her. Now, I'm not saying you should be that way.
Yeah.
But I think that what my kids felt, and there is a balance, and maybe I was too hard in some ways in making my kids feel like the whole world was on their shoulders. But I think what helped my kids a lot was they hear we're doing ministry. It's not my ministry. It's our ministry.
Yeah.
And if one of us falls out of it, then we're going to pay it. We're going to take care of that person.
Yeah.
Not try to sacrifice my kids for the rest of the world. Now this is hard because I grew up in a Great Commission workers family, and I was sent away to go to school when I was 6 years old. Sorry, 7 years old.
So your parents could stay on the field?
There was no school hour.
Sure. Okay.
And actually, my situation was not near as hard as some of those kids at that time were sent away, and they see their parents at Christmas and in the summer. Man. And that's not okay. Of course, when I was in high school, I loved it.
Yeah,
like, man, we're on our own. But as a kid, that there were so many
You need that
workers'
love from
kids
mom and dad.
who are scarred because of that. And I didn't want to do that to my kids. So then I like, kids, you're more important than all these people. And by doing that, they felt like they're part of ministry. Now, my parents were wonderful.
Yeah.
And I think what my parents did right is this was never my mom and dad's ministry with the Ogden people. It was our family. We all spoke the language. We lived with them. They were all my friends. When my friends had died, we were there putting their bodies under the earth. And so this was never like mom and dad are doing ministry and I'm watching from a distance. This was my home.
Yeah.
So I tried to do the same thing with my kids in Japan. Kids, we're gonna be there, and this is your ministry. And when you're done, when you don't want to do it anymore, we're not doing it anymore.
We're doing this as a family. It's a family ministry, not just.
Of course, my kids love Japan.
Yeah,
they love.
Do you think it was something different in the way that just kind of the Japanese culture worked differently than American culture that made a difference there too, or do you think it just came down to the way y'all raised in the home?
Well, I think so. And obviously, I'm so Asian in the way that I could present myself. Obviously, you don't know by looking at me, but my kids know because they're like, "Dad, we're in America. You're thinking like you're in Asia." Because I mean, there's certain things if you know culture that people just think differently, and so the sense of duty in Asian culture, the sense of responsibility, the sense of honor, all that. Is at the core of people's hearts. And what's interesting for me is that when I grew up with Agta culture, and my parents were so good at adapting to that that they lived like it. What freaked me out was when they moved to America. And I was like, who are these people? Because they started acting like all they did was switch from their Agta culture to American culture, but I didn't know American culture.
But you didn't switch.
I was like, I couldn't believe how they acted so strange here.
Interesting.
Because it was just weird for me.
Yeah.
So they saturated us so much in that culture.
Yeah.
That I had to put on a facade to.
Yeah. Well, it's like your heart culture instead of like a heart language, I would think.
I didn't know it was hard. I didn't know we were that different.
Yeah.
I was just being like my parents and like everybody else in the village.
Yeah.
And of course I learned. So anyway, that's a whole other topic.
That's so cool.
But I think speaking of family.
Yeah.
I think you got to go see your family.
Well, actually, I had one more question that
sure.
I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
And that's because we were talking about investing today.
Yeah.
And I was curious, if somebody is at the beginning of their journey from the financial perspective, because I'm sure there's some people watching that they are at that place and they are trying to figure out what the next step is. And let's say they have somewhere between, $1 and $1,000. I think that's a pretty healthy range that somebody's, in there. Where would you suggest they start?
Between $1 and $1,000.
Between $1 and $1,000, they're just trying to figure out step one. What do the first couple steps look like on that journey of just, being able to get to the point where they're given 30, they're investing 33%.
Well, I think this is a multi-layered question, but the question again is why? Why do you want to do this? You got $1,000 you want to invest. Why? Why do you want to invest it? Because the answer to that question will determine the outcome, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I want to invest it so that I got $2,000. But why do you want $2,000? Well, so I can invest it and get $4,000. But why? Yeah. What's your end goal? And for the person that says my end goal is I want to live in a fifth wheel with my 6 kids.
I wouldn't that.
That's not the end goal. But I want this life, this little teeny life that's so short to have the maximum impact on this planet possible. So how can I take this $1,000 that I have and use it in a way that's going to bring maximum impact? And, I want to invest it so I can give away. But I think what you said is really important. How about starting now? Yeah. And what you just said you did with the money that it was in Libby's account, you took that and you gave it to pastor's training somewhere, turn that into ministry. Yeah. Is it possible that part of your success now is because you invested in God's kingdom?
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's this verse, I think it's 2 Corinthians 9:6 that says you will be made rich in every way. Do you know what the next part is? So that, what's the so that?
So that is because you have to pay attention to the thing that's in front of it because it affects directly what
Well,
comes
what Paul's saying to the church in Corinth is you will be made rich in every way so that you can be generous on every occasion.
Mhm.
Why you want to be rich? So that I can be generous on every occasion.
Right.
So if you want to become rich, why do you want to become rich?
Yeah.
2 Corinthians 9:6, I think, is it says so that you can be generous on every occasion. Well, are you being generous now?
Right. Right.
Because you say, well, I'll be generous when God is generous to me.
Yeah.
No, be like the little kid that gives his
Right.
5 loaves and 2 fish, and that's all he's got.
Right.
Which is what you and Libby did.
Yeah.
Is it possible the reason that you're becoming a rich man at 26 years old, 27,
Something like that.
is
Dude, man.
because you said, you said, Lord, I'm giving this deposit to you. I mean, Proverbs 19:17, give to the poor. He who gives to the poor is lending to the Lord. You want to invest with somebody? Invest with the richest,
absolutely.
the richest king in the universe.
Yeah.
And he'll repay you.
Yeah.
So you're already doing that. I hope as we've talked, people who are listening are inspired to give, and no guilt, just joy.
Yeah.
And Jesus
But come at it with a plan.
And
let the Lord direct your steps, but you got to have a plan as you go about
I
it.
think making a plan and asking yourself why.
Yeah.
And understand it and try it.
Yeah. Well, and I think finding people like you, and that's why I came to you. And it's why I've come to so many others. You gotta get with somebody who's, one step or a couple steps ahead. They've accomplished what you are trying to accomplish. Not just asking random people, your friends, your family who have never done it, asking people who have accomplished what you're trying to accomplish, getting mentorship, getting counseling from them. And I think sometimes you might have to pay for that training, but a lot of times, I didn't have to pay to have conversations with you. You just had me up to the office. We had a conversation, then I implemented it. And I think that's a big part of it.
I'm so proud of you. Thanks. It wasn't just me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that have.
Oh, 100%. We've had lots of counselors.
But it's so rewarding to think that you actually took some of what I've taught
multiple times
and implemented it, and that you're passing it on and blessing other people and helping other people. Good job, man.
Yeah. Praise the
So
Lord.
proud of you.
Praise the Lord.
Glory